Welcome to Girls Guide How to Get Away with Middle School. I'm your host, Maddie, and every week we chat about the stuff that really matters academics, friendships, and just figuring things out. We've got tips, stories, and a few laughs along the way. So kick back with me and let's make this middle school journey a bit easier and a lot more fun. In this episode, we're going to be talking about friendship the good, the bad, and the ugly. Friendship is one of the most important aspects of middle school because it makes going to school fun, to be able to see your friends and laugh and joke and have a good time. There's several different aspects to friendship, and one of them is how you treat your friends and also how your friends treat you. And then there is good friends, bad friends, and how do you know if one of your friends is a bad friend? And if they are, what do you do? All of these questions and more will be answered in today's episode. So, I wanted to get someone else's opinion on friendship for this episode too, because while it may be helpful to hear advice, it's always good to hear what other people think. And so I called upon one of the girls in my Girl Scout troop who I think would be an amazing candidate to tell you guys a little bit about friendship. So I'm going to go ahead and play that interview for you guys right now. So, for today's episode, we are joined by a special guest. If you could please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Elena, and I go to high school, and I'm in the same Girl Scout troop as Maddie.
And she has so graciously agreed to answer some questions about her experiences with friendship for us. So we're going to jump right into our first question, and that is, what do you think the most important aspect of friendship is?
For me, I think it's honesty. Just like with your closest friends, I think you should be as honest as you can, whether you're upset about something or excited, or maybe if you even need help. Just if something matters to you, I think you should really be honest about it. Because this like builds trust within your friendship. Just so like later in the road, you don't have to like lie to them about something, if that makes sense.
So you don't like get yourself caught in a lie because you told them something that wasn't true earlier?
Yeah, and that doesn't really mean like you have to tell them every single detail about your life, but just like be genuine and be honest to your friends.
Like, don't just lie for no reason.
Yeah, like if you can be honest, be as honest as possible.
Okay, and our second question is, why do you think it's important to build friendships and positive relationships with your peers?
I think it's just like there's a lot of different reasons, but one of the really important things is that they could end up being your best friend. One of my friends, I just happened to talk to her on like the second day of school. And she's now one of my best friends just because like I talked to her and was nice to her. And I also have like with your peers, that includes your sports members, your club members, just anyone you talk to. And a lot of my friends I just talked to on the tennis team in 6th grade, and now I talk to them every day in 9th grade just because I built a relationship with them in 6th grade. And so I think it really it'll help you later down the road, especially in high school, if you like talk to people and make friends in middle school.
Just so you always have like someone you know kind of wherever you are.
It's really helpful, especially like a lot of my friends going into high school, I had talked to in middle school, and I might not have talked to them in a year or two, but just because I knew them, it's just like another familiar face, and that really helps you.
You're doing so good. So our next question is how you would deal with a negative situation, for example, an argument or drama when it involves your close friends.
I think okay, so I think you should really just talk about it, and sometimes when things get tough, it's kind of hard to talk about it and you just want to like ignore and brush off the situation, but that's really just it's gonna not help later in life. Like if you have an argument with a friend and you don't talk about it with them and then you just keep on going, in maybe a couple months, that thing will reopen and it'll just become a bigger situation that you have to deal with. So even if something is small and something upsets you, I think you should talk to them and be patient and, again, like, honest with them. And make sure, like, you hear what the other person has to say, and just kind of communicate. And yeah.
So you're basically just saying, even if it's not that big of a deal, just talk about it, because you could end up becoming more irritated with the same thing over a longer period of time.
Yeah, like, one time, me and my friend, we hadn't been, like, we were still talking to each other, and we had, like, 4 classes together, and we just hadn't really, we'd been more distant than we usually were, and so it was kind of, like, upsetting me, and I was like, did I do something wrong? Like, is she mad at me for something? And I was just kind of, like, scared to talk to her about it because I didn't want to make things worse. But eventually I just had to be like, okay, like, what's up? Just ask her about it. And it ended up being just a big misunderstanding. Like, she thought I was mad at her. I thought she was mad at her. I thought she was mad at me. It was just like, and that just, it, like, took off so much stress and weight off my back because it was just, I kept on stressing, and as soon as we talked about it, like, it was just, like, better.
So it was just, you were both overthinking it, and just having a conversation really clears things up. And especially, like, even not just in friendships, but in, like, your relationships in general, you don't want to just have problems and not talk about them, because then it's just, you're always going to be irritated, and that will end up causing a rift in your friendships and relationships. So our next question is, have you had any friendships that have ended for different reasons? And if so, can you share 1 or 2 of those reasons?
I remember I had a lot of friends in 7th grade and even 6th grade. And I just moved to this school. And so I was kind of just meeting new people, trying to talk to as many people as I could. And later in 8th grade, I just kind of just, like, drifted off from them because I realized they have different, like, morals and values that I do. And so maybe they were, like, getting into trouble, or maybe they just didn't care about their grades, and they just, like, didn't share the same values that I thought were important. And so I think, especially as you, like, grow up, maybe, like, throughout middle school, especially when you get to 8th grade and then continue on to high school, just find friends who, like, you want to, like, make you want to be a better person.
Who want the
like,
same
all my
things
friends,
that you do.
Like, they have good grades. They're just, like, active in their community. Like, they just do what I want to do, and that makes me motivated to become a better person.
Okay, so you guys drifted apart because they were more into not doing the right thing as opposed to, like...
Yeah, they just weren't really... They just didn't do the right thing in all situations, and I just didn't want to get into that stuff.
You didn't want to be lumped in with that group of people.
And so I just kind of slowly drifted off from them. And I still sometimes, I say hi to them in the hallways, and I'm still friendly with them, but I just am not best friends with them anymore.
So just making sure you find people who want the same things that you do, and don't lump yourself in with people who are gonna get you in trouble.
Yeah, like, don't get in the wrong crowd.
Yeah, because, you know, like, people always say, oh, birds of a feather flock together, and it sounds really dumb, but it's true. Like, if you're friends with a lot of people who do a lot of bad stuff, people are gonna automatically think that you also do that stuff.
Yeah, and your friends really have an influence on you, and you want to have friends that are good influences, not bad influences.
And our final question is, what friend has had the most positive impact on your life thus far?
So I have this friend, and we met in 6th grade, and we became best friends, and we were best friends in 6th and 7th grade, and we still are. But then in 8th grade, like our friendship clicked, and we just like got to the point where we were honest about everything to each other, and like we know what matters to each other. We know what when we get upset, like we can tell um just what the other person is thinking. And it's just nice to have that person in middle school where you know that you can trust them with everything. Um, but I think you really have to. I lucked out just meeting her. But a lot of people in middle school, you can't just automatically be like, oh, I get along with them. I should tell them every single thing about myself and what's happening in my life. Like be careful who you tell, who you choose your best friend to be, but um, when you do, it's like really nice to have that one person that you can trust with.
Trustin?
Trust in.
Well, that was my last question. Thank you so much for doing this. You gave really
Yes,
good
of
answers,
course.
and I thought you did great. They were good.
Yeah, I was like stressing about these answers, but okay, I'm glad I did good.
No, you did good. So, thank you so much for doing an interview for the podcast, and have a great rest of your day, and Merry Christmas.
You too.
I want to jump into my first thing, which is what makes a good friend. Now, I'm sure there's several words and traits that come to mind when you think of what's a good friend. Now, Elena said honesty, and I think it's good to start there. Honesty isn't a very important trait to have as a friend because if someone asks you, hey, do you like this? Do you want to do this? You don't want to feel pressured to give them the answer they want versus the answer that you know is true. And being honest in a friendship will take you far because there won't be that. It almost like I'm having trouble figuring out how to explain it, but when you keep lying and telling someone, I don't care about this, I don't care about this, but deep down you do, and it makes you really angry, over time you're going to build a sort of resentment towards that person because you keep doing something you hate, but it's unfair to them because they don't know that you hate it because you're not being honest with them, or vice versa. If they hate something that you do, but they're not being honest with you, which is why I think being honest in a friendship will save you a lot of trouble down the road. Now, one of the biggest things that I think is an important aspect of friendship is trust. I need to be able to trust whoever I'm friends with if I need to tell them a secret, or if I need to tell them something that's going on that I don't want a ton of people to know. I need to know that I can trust you to not tell other people. Or even something as simple as if I'm letting you borrow something, I need to trust that you will be able to give it back to me in the condition that I gave it to you in. So whether it's something huge, like a big secret you've never told anyone, or something small, like letting someone borrow your necklace for a couple hours, trust is so important in friendship because it can make or break a relationship. If you don't have trust or are having trouble trusting someone, then maybe it's a sign that you shouldn't be friends with them, because that's what relationships are built on: trust. It's a mutual trust between two people. So if you can't believe in your friends that they're not going to tell your secrets or steal your things or break your things or any other thing, you can't necessarily have a good relationship because you're always wondering, what if they do this? What if they do that? Should I tell them this? Another important aspect of being a good friend is kindness. Are you willing to sometimes go out of your way to do something nice for your friends? Whether it's seeing something in a store you think they'll like and getting it for them, or just hanging out. Like, just maybe if they need to borrow something, allowing them to. If they need a shoulder to cry on, letting them yourself be that shoulder for them. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. You don't need to make a giant basket of all this stuff that you think they'll like, or you do all of that. You don't need to. That doesn't define being kind. Kindness can be a simple act of complimenting their hair when you see that they've changed it, or telling them that you like their new shirt. It doesn't always have to be over the top, but just making sure that you are kind to your friends and that you check up on them and make sure they know that you care about them. So, another thing that's important to me in a friendship is humor. I need a friend that I can joke and laugh with. I couldn't be friends with someone who's too serious, because sometimes when you're with your friends, that's the time where you want to joke and not be serious. And you just want to laugh and tell jokes and act a fool and be ridiculous. That is what most people want to do when they're with their friends. And it's really important to me that my friends have a similar, if not the same, taste in humor as I do, because when I make jokes, I want people to laugh. So that is an important thing for friendship for me. But I think what the most important thing in friendship is trust. And trust and honesty go like hand in hand. So I would say trust and honesty are the two most important aspects of friendship. So now we're going to talk about the more, I don't want to say negative side of friendship, but the more difficult side of friendship. And that's going to be your fights, your arguments, and what most people deem as a toxic or bad friend. Now, I want to start with arguments and disagreements. That happens in every relationship you have, whether it's your brother, your parents, your friends, anybody. If you have a relationship and you love them, you're probably going to end up arguing with them. But it's important that when arguing with someone, you don't just say a bunch of nasty things you don't mean. If you sense yourself getting really, really angry, just take a break from the argument. Tell the person, hey, we can talk about it, just not right now. Because it's easier to walk away and let yourself cool down and come back with a more level head than for you to be extremely angry and say a bunch of stuff you don't mean and accidentally ruin a friendship, or just find yourself so angry that you don't even care about what you're arguing anymore. You just want to be right. And I think it's important to really think about why you're in an argument. What happened? Is it something that you would stop being friends with someone over? Is it something that happens a lot? Or is it something that's never happened before? And whatever side of the argument you're on, you want to make sure that you know why you think that. What's backing up your point? Why do you believe that you are the one in the right? And being able to explain your side of an argument using your points and being like, you can have an argument or a disagreement in a respectful manner. Like, you don't have to be rude, because that's when it goes from just a disagreement to like an argument. It's when everyone starts getting upset and their feelings hurt, and that's just not what you want from an argument. You just want to be able to explain your side, and ultimately the goal of a disagreement or argument is for you to prove that you're correct. And yelling at someone and calling them names isn't going to prove that. So I think when you have an argument with someone, keep a calm, level head and just talk it out and talk it fully out, because you don't want to be like, oh, fine, that's okay, and still be upset about it, because then if it happens again, you're gonna be so mad. It's insane. But I think that just making sure you're not being really hot headed and you're not furious is really the most important part. Because having an argument when you're really, really, really upset isn't beneficial. It's just adding fuel to a fire. So if you need 10, 20 minutes to just cool down before you start talking about it, take those 10 to 20 minutes for yourself. And I think it's important to recognize when at the point of a discussion, like, and there's some arguments where you're never going to resolve it really, and it's like you just are both going to disagree on how it happened and what happened forever. And that's when you really just need to, as corny as it sounds, like, agree to disagree. If you know that you're never going to see their side and they're never going to see your side, you just need to be like, let's just put this behind us and move on. Because there's no point in arguing about the same thing for a week and a half if you guys are never going to agree on what happened. It's a waste of time and energy and emotions. So there's certain arguments where you can reach an agreement and there's some where you just can't. And you need to recognize that for yourself and for your friend. So that's really what I think friendship arguments are about. And now I want to talk about a toxic friend. A toxic friend is someone who you believe is your friend, but they're really not. They either make fun of you in a not in a jokey, funny way, like where everyone has those friend groups where it's like you guys poke fun and tease each other, but it's all in a friendly manner, even if that doesn't sound like an actual thing. But that's how a lot of people are, myself included. But it's when your friends are poking fun at you in a way that you can tell they're almost trying to hurt your feelings, and they always want to put you down in front of others, or they tell you that your opinions don't matter, or that what you're saying is stupid, or your interests are stupid, or your hobbies are stupid. Then at that point, they're not poking fun. They're almost like bullying you into doing whatever they want and liking what they like. And that's really what a toxic friend is. They just take all the personality out of you. And it's really hard when you realize that a friend is toxic, because that's your friend. You don't want to stop being friends with them, even if that's what's best for you. But when you do have a toxic friend, it is best to just break off the relationship and stop being friends, because they're hurting you. They're not helping you in any way. And a friendship is supposed to help you. It's supposed to make you grow as a person. If it's not doing that, then you shouldn't continue the relationship. So that is the more negative aspect of friendship. We've talked about the positives, and now we are going to talk about just a quick summary of friendship, really. Friendship has a million aspects and tons of ways to go wrong. So I really think that one of the best rules to friendship is don't expect any more than what you're willing to give to a person. And no matter how old you are or what stage of life you're in, having friends and making relationships is a very important part of life. And it's better to learn when you're younger how to nurture and care for your friends than when you're older. Because I think the older you get, kind of the harder it gets to make friends. But make friends in middle school and in high school and in college, because those can be some of your lifelong friends, and you'll never know it until you befriend them. Don't be mean to anyone you don't know. You never know what they're going through. And just keep an open mind when you become friends with people. Don't take everyone else's opinions about a person before you get to know them. And you can find friends in the most unlikely places. Thank you for joining me on this episode of How to Get Away with Middle School. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, make sure to leave a comment and let me know what other topics you'd like me to talk about next. Feel free to drop any questions you may have in the comments below too. Make sure to subscribe. Keep doing everything you're doing in life, and I will see you in the next episode.